Who can be compared with Hitler in history, according to you? Genghis Khan. I think the reason a lot of people in the West don't hate him or see him as bad as other regions is because he didn't affect them. While he destroyed a lot of countries and didn't have mercy, he didn't even take a lot of the land he conquered, burned and killed everyone alive, elders, women, kids, animals and plants. We still can't get enough information or know a lot of things about Western Xia, because he didn't just conquer them, he basically deleted them, not at that time only but from history. He destroyed almost everything they left. He burned Baghdad Library and threw books in the river until it turned black from the ink. This library had knowledge that some historians think we don't have today. This guy did what Hitler was going to do, but the difference is he was successful more than once. He destroyed civilizations. He was a fucking genius and a monster. The reason Hitler is more hated is because he is more recent and affected the West more than the rest of the world. OFC, that doesn't mean Hitler is any good. He was definitely evil, if not for the war then certainly for killing civilians. Those not in the 20th or 21st century. Napoleon. The Napoleonic Wars claimed anywhere from 3.5 million to almost 8 million lives, mostly civilian. Caesar bragged about having killed 1 million Gauls and enslaved 1 million more. Genghis Khan, over 25 million dead and arguably the last great westward migration of peoples of the East. Andrew Jackson, enacted absolutely brutal and legally dubious oppression of Native Americans. Rode in on a wave of populism that was stirred up in the early 19th century America. Hundreds of thousands of Native Americans were slaughtered, with a vast majority uprooted and forced westward. Leopold II, the blood of the Congo is on this man's hands. The epitome of absolute colonial brutality. Technically also part of the 20th century, but just a little, just a few. Joseph Mengele. A Nazi doctor/surgeon that experimented on identical twin children between toddler ages and mid-teenage years, 16 to 17 or so. He appeared like a calm, right-minded officer to the children/teenagers. He groomed them first in ways like letting them keep their hair, letting them keep their clothes, giving them extra food, giving them candy, letting them keep their shoes, letting the twins be together, letting them keep a toy/giving them a toy, etc. His experiments included needle injections into the eyes to see if the color could change, needle injections into the genitals for some reason, needle injections into the bloodstream, sewing children together for some reason, removing/swapping non-essential organs to see if the children could still function with their siblings' body parts inside of them, inflicting wounds, then introducing diseases, killing children to examine their organs, then discarding the body into a cart, which would be wheeled outside and the child's body would be thrown away into a hole or ditch, injecting/introducing children to sickness. Some of these comments are wild. You can't compare a lot of Hitler's contemporaries like Stalin, Mao, Pol Pot, modern-day dictators, to him. The difference is Germany took over most of Europe during World War II. He invaded and conquered over 20 countries. None of those dictators achieved that, but not only that, the genocide of the Holocaust was not centralized, it was across Europe, and it was specific groups of people. That level of an operation in modern-day times is wild. So brutality-wise, maybe Attila the Hun, expanding his empire through Germany, the Balkans, Russia etc., but as far as the annihilation of an entire specific group of people, no one compares. Body count, okay, Mao wins, but he didn't conquer very much, just overthrew and controlled China. So the conquering and the annihilation of specific people combined is what makes Hitler and his team in a class of their own emo. And on top of that, Hitler and team didn't just kill specific groups of people, they treated them as inhumane, torturing, starving, conducting all sorts of insane and painful experiments on them by their scientists. And lucky for a lot of the Nazi scientists, they got immunity, were welcome to the good old US of A and basically built NASA and got us into space and to the moon. Shiro Ishii. He led a biological weapons program for the Japanese Empire in China during the Second Sino-Japanese War and World War II. He abducted Chinese civilians and vivisected alive and dead, froze, tumbled, infected with thousands of combinations of diseases, sat next to bombing zones and dropped pots of plague-infected insects, shot, cut, stabbed, amputated, revived, raped, cured, removed organs from, starved, transfused various fluids into the bloodstream, The list is endless, and the number of direct victims numbers roughly around 10,000, with the less but still direct deaths of his developed bioweapons estimated between 100,000 and over 1 million. He eviscerated entire cities with black plague pots dropped by bombers to kill inhabitants while maintaining infrastructure. He killed approximately 10 times as many people as Joseph Meneghales, and almost nobody knows who he is. Because the US chose to pursue the research he and his subordinates produced, in exchange for immunity from the experiments for potential use against the Soviets, and let him and all the rest of them go. He died wealthy in the 80s and in charge of large portions of Japanese healthcare, as did essentially all of his colleagues, many of whom performed live vivisections of plague-infected tortured Chinese people, experiences you could hardly imagine were institutionalized in camps across China. By the time the research was obtained in full, thousands of accounts of things simple war crimes can hardly describe, it was deemed largely useless. As a lot of it was deemed in the time it was created. A lot of the research had no initial aims other than exploring methods of torture and infection to find any potentially useful scientific results, primarily for the purpose of developing biological superweapons the Japanese could immunize themselves from yet kill the enemy by the tens and hundreds of millions but preserve their infrastructure. I would confidently say this was one of the most evil individuals ever to walk the earth, perhaps the worst.